The story begins in the clouds, where Ryo Mihara is informed by an angel that he has passed away in an accident. He understands that he's being reincarnated but wonders what he's supposed to do in his new life. The angel tells him he can live however he pleases. There's no mission or special agenda assigned to him, but still, Ryo questions if he's just meant to live freely. He learns that the world he's reincarnated into is filled with magic. It's called Phi, and in this world around 20% of humans can use magic. His most compatible element is water. Since he requested a slow life, he'll be reincarnated in the forest of Rondo. A house and 2 months worth of food will be waiting for him. No party, no mentor, no plan, just a dude and his water spells. Upon arrival, Ryo is surprised to see an ice house for storing food, which must be magic. His house has a protective field that keeps monsters away, something like a barrier. He finds a monster compendium, beginner edition, and a flora compendium, and even though he's never seen the language, he can read them. He tries casting a spell by saying, "Water, come forth," and a ball of water appears. He figures he might not need to vocalize spells, imagination might be enough. Still, he thinks incantations are cool. Alone in the forest, still more peaceful than group projects. The water he conjures is tepid, too bad. He was hoping to enjoy a warm bath. The next day, under the sun, he tries learning a new spell. He attempts to freeze water but finds it harder than expected. He wants to create something like an ice spear. Focusing on the H2O molecules, he visualizes hydrogen bonds forming, and soon, the water starts freezing. He then uses a magnifying glass and sunlight to shape it, successfully producing ice. That night, Ryo relaxes. It's been a productive first day. He thinks he could probably use the same logic to make hot water. Magic really does make life easier. Tomorrow, there's plenty more to do. He remembers Michael left him 2 months of food, meaning he'll eventually need to start hunting. The woods beyond the barrier are filled with monsters. A single knife won't be enough. He'll need offensive magic. To secure his peaceful life, he better start training. Practice makes a man perfect. He heads to an open field and casts Water Ball, his first attack spell. It's not very strong, which is disappointing but expected. Still, he has an idea. If Water Ball isn't enough, he'll try Water Jet. He imagines a high-pressure, narrow stream, but his first try fails. He recalls asking Michael how to use magic, and Michael told him that imagination is the foundation. Visualize clearly and work toward it over time. He keeps trying, and finally, it starts to look better. Encouraged, he figures he can reverse the ice process to make hot water, and it works. The next morning, Ryo is practicing creating ice out of thin air. It forms slowly, but it's possible. His goal? A proper offensive spell called Icicle Lance. It's harder to cast than water spells with limited range and power, so he doubts its combat effectiveness. Still, practice makes perfect, and he trains until he nearly passes out. Must be mana depletion. After intense training, he manages to instantly cast Icicle Lance, though it still lacks projectile force. Now it's time to venture outside the barrier. He enters the deep forest, peaceful and quiet. He finds a quartz crystal along the riverbank, which good for starting fires after sunset. He picks detox herbs and considers the day a success, trying to live slow, but Phi said boss fight on day 1. Suddenly, a lesser boar appears, which his first monster encounter is. He asks for peace. The world gave me wild boars and weather magic. It charges, and Ryo falls to the side. He can't move, but he has magic. He casts Ice Bond to trip it, then finishes it with 16 icicle lances. Breathing heavily, he sees that he's won. That night, sitting by the fire, he reads the compendium and learns that lesser boars are the weakest type, so are Bay. Still, he's unsettled. He flips to the final pages of the special edition content. Dragons are next, creatures capable of destroying entire cities. There's a note if you ever see one, run, though escaping is unlikely. Then there's the Akuma, that is not fallen angels, but unknown beings. The page ends with a prayer that the reader never encounters one. He sighs. This world is huge. Later, Ryo goes into the forest naked to pick fruit, wandering like Mowgli. Like Mowgli learning to survive without human help, Ryo navigates the harsh world of entertainment and exploitation alone. Suddenly, an assassin hawk attacks. He runs, knowing its main attack is air slash and sharp swoops. He tries ice magic, but the hawk dodges everything. Finally, he shields himself in ice. One of the hawk's eyes gets injured and it flies away, temporarily defeated. Ryo collapses, thinking this slow life is way harder than expected. He gets lost while running from the hawk and stumbles upon a man and a beast by the river. He kills a snake with magic and catches fish. With time, he gets better at water magic. He uses abrasive magic to slice a cliff in half. Realizing he can harden ice to act like a garnet blasting tool, he feels like he's finally getting the hang of it. One night, under a glowing moon, he encounters a Dullahan not mentioned in the beginner's compendium. Maybe it's too advanced. They fight intensely and Ryo collapses. He knows he can't win yet, but he keeps coming back. It's like the Dullahan is training him. Then the Dullahan reveals a water sword. Ryo is stunned. The Dullahan offers it to him. He's being told to master it. Ryo accepts the sword as it is the deadly generosity wrapped in steel and silence. After gifting him the sword, the Dullahan disappears. The next day, he sees another assassin hawk, much darker than before. He wonders if it could have evolved. The hawk attacks. Ryo forms a 5-layer ice wall, dodging as best as he can. Then he creates a 10-layer wall, but the hawk smashes through it. It fires a massive thunder attack from its mouth. Ryo strikes with the water sword and injures the hawk. Realizing the sword's true power, power, Ryo continues the assault. He finally defeats the hawk. He understands now it came back to avenge its eye, but also out of respect. They both gave their all. In a way, the hawk helped him grow. He draws his sword from its throat and moves to another part of the forest where he meets a talking dragon. He's shocked that the dragon uses telepathy, though it hasn't in a long time. The dragon uses telepathy because roaring is so last century. The dragon asks Ryo if he's seen a bird that evolved from an assassin hawk. Ryo admits he killed it. The dragon sees Ryo's sword and recognizes it. It's the sword of the fairy king. That must mean Ryo earned his favor. Ryo has questions, but the dragon says he's being called away. He enjoyed their chat, but he has to go. Ryo tells him his name, and the dragon introduces himself as Lewin before flying off. Ryo never thought he'd talk to a dragon, but in this world, anything is possible. Meanwhile, Michael realizes he overlooked something. He sees that Ryo has a hidden trait: eternal youth. No one has had that trait since the girl he sent to another world 10,000 years ago. The storm came early, right after that entrance. In the middle of a heavy rainstorm, a man lies unconscious. Slowly, he opens his eyes and wonders if he survived. He sees his clothes neatly folded beside him. Getting up, he walks out of the room. Outside the door, he finds himself surrounded by greenery. Confused, he asks himself where he is, when suddenly a voice calls out, "It's Ryo!" cheerfully greeting him and relieved that he made it through. The man is stunned, still unsure of what's going on. Looking at Ryo's unusual attire, he wonders if Ryo owns anything else to wear, but quickly realizes that probably shouldn't be the first thing he says. He introduces himself as Abel and thanks Ryo for saving his life, but Ryo insists there's no need for thanks because he only brought Abel home. He also informs Abel that he was the only survivor. The rest of the group didn't make it. Abel doesn't seem too shaken, they were just smugglers after all. Suddenly, his stomach growls loud enough to shake the trees. When the hunger hits harder than the tragedy, Ryo properly introduces himself. Abel, looking around, asks if Ryo has any spare clothes. But without fabric or thread, Ryo says, he can't exactly sew new ones. Abel realizes he's broke as he has no money, no supplies, not even basics. It's like when fashion sense exists, but fabric doesn't. Ryo explains that there aren't even any nearby settlements or people. Abel realizes Ryo is like a fierce heart and an empty closet. Abel notices some food clearly hunted and a knife nearby. He asks if Ryo used that knife, but Ryo says it's mainly for finishing prey. His real hunting tool is water magic. Abel is impressed. He tells Ryo that even in the central provinces, only about half the population can use magic. Ryo recalls that Michael told him only about 20% can use it in Phi. Abel then asks to be shown the coastline. He wants to confirm something. As they walk, he assumes Ryo must have lost everything and been forced into this rugged lifestyle. Abel offers to take the front line if trouble arises, but Ryo initially refuses. Abel insists that he doesn't want to be the guy who always gets saved. That would ruin his reputation. Abel fears that his hero status slowly turning into sidekick status. Ryo agrees to stay back. When they reach the shore, all the bodies are gone, maybe eaten or just washed out to sea. Looks like they missed their funeral by high tide. Abel knows he would have ended up like them if Ryo hadn't saved him. He explores the wrecked boat, while Ryo continues calling him Mr. Abel. Abel protests that his lifesaver can be so formal. He tells him to just call him Abel. Ryo agrees and Abel smiles. He's happy to be addressed normally. Abel fails to find what he was searching for in the boat. Ryo asks about his next move. Abel decides to try rendezvousing with his companions, starting with the town of Loon, but he thinks he's been swept far south. Unsure of his location, he asks Ryo to act as a guide. Ryo agrees. As they set off, Ryo takes a moment that night to say goodbye to someone. Abel thought Ryo said no one lived nearby. Maybe he's paying respects. Ryo visits the Dullahan and tells him he'll be away from the forest of Rondo for a while. He thanks him and requests one final spar, promising to give it his all. After an intense bout, Ryo is left panting. The Dullahan responds by creating a massive water ball that transforms into a flowing cape. Ryo accepts it with gratitude. Instant upgrade, from magician to mysterious hero. The next morning, he wears the cape with pride. Draped in style, ready to steal every scene, their journey begins. On the way, they encounter a wild boar. Abel swiftly slays it using combat skills. Ryo, unfamiliar with the concept, asks about it. Abel explains. That night, they camp out peacefully under the stars. The next morning, their journey continues. They spot a group of lizard folk. Ryo senses danger and kills them using icicle lance of level 4. Afterward, he magically crafts a cup of water and hands it to Abel, hydrated by elemental hydration. They continue walking. Abel shows Ryo a bronze florin, currency from the kingdom of Nightly where Loon is located. Ryo's never seen it. Abel explains that each province mints its coins, but they all follow the same denominations. Nightly is one of the 3 major powers, along with the Dabuhi Empire and the Handaloo Federation. Ryo finds Dabuhi a weird name. Suddenly, Abel hears stone shifting. Ryo quickly erects an ice wall, but they're surrounded. They'd wandered into a rock golem nest. Abel runs in with combat skills, but the golems regenerate. Ryo casts a 10-layer ice wall. It holds them off well. The final golem drops a large, vivid magic stone. Ryo hopes to collect more, but the others have already crumbled. Moving on, they see a massive hippo-like creature. Abel calls it a behemoth. From another direction, wyverns appear. Looks like they scored front row seats to a monster battle. The wyverns strike, but the behemoth shrugs off their attacks and annihilates them using magic negation. That night, they sit by the fire. Abel mentions traps and dungeons with similar magic nullifying effects. Ryo's eyes light up. He wants to explore a dungeon one day. Abel admits there's one in Looney, the town they're headed to, but didn't mention it earlier since he didn't know Ryo was into that sort of thing. They discussed dwarves and elves. Dwarves are mastersmiths and fierce fighters. Loon has a few. Elves mostly keep to their forest settlements. Ryo imagined them just like that. The two talked the whole night. The next day, they approach the mountains. Ryo predicts they're nearing human territory. Abel wonders where Ryo's getting this intel. Secretly, Ryo remembers what Lewin the talking dragon told him, that the land is surrounded by sea on 3 sides and mountains to the north, acting as a natural barrier. Ryo doesn't mention Lewin, brushing it off as a source beyond human understanding. Suddenly, a shadow appears above. A massive eagle stares down at them. Abel is drenched in sweat, frozen in fear. Ryo quickly tosses meat into the air. The eagle grabs it and flies off. Ryo breathes a sigh of relief. Abel, still shaken, notes that humans aren't built to fight beasts like that, and no one's seen behemoths or griffins for centuries. He suspects something's off about this place. Ryo thinks humans just haven't tried hard enough. Maybe the mountains kept the beasts out, but something brought them here, possibly someone. Soon they come upon a nest of wyverns. Abel warns that wyverns are far too much for the two of them. Normally, it takes a party of 20 seasoned adventurers, casualties included. Wyvern expected an army, got a dynamic duo instead. Even so, Ryo thinks avoiding a fight isn't possible. He asks if grounding them would make them easier to deal with. Abel agrees. Ryo casts an ice spear spell, raining frozen death from above and pinning the wyverns to the ground. Abel charges in and activates his combat skill known as Total Impalement. The combo wipes out the entire flock. Wyverns wanted 20, got 2, regretted everything. Abel harvests the magic stones. Turns out that was easier than expected. Abel wonders if they should be worried. Ryo turns to Abel and says to him that he prefers near-death battles to get his blood pumping. He is out here chasing boss fights for the adrenaline. Abel groans and tells him to stick to the plan. Ryo agrees, so long as Abel's up for it. Abel stares at the remaining wyvern flock. They will have to take them all down. They are not done yet. Time to clear the whole raid. Their journey resumes. Another peaceful day, and through it all, they're still together. After finally learning how to bonk wyverns like a pro, Ryo was ready to do it again and again. But Abel said, no way, no more fire-breathing chicken lizards today. Anyways, the best part that happened is that they got tons of shiny magic stones from the monsters. It was like finding treasure in a video game loot box. They walked pretty far north, but still had no clue where they were. Ryo guessed that maybe they are going to the Debuhi Empire. Abel laughed and said, nope, that place is way farther north. Good news, they hadn't gotten lost. Phew! Everyone sighed like they just avoided a giant spider. Abel didn't get why the Empire had a bad rap, but just saying the name made everyone shiver. Suddenly a road appeared, stretching like it wanted to help. Abel pointed and said, Kelati Town is that way, road trip, here they go. Town meant comfy beds, yummy food, and no mosquitoes camping on their faces. Both got super excited. Abel hyped up Kelati's food like it was the best in the world. Their tummies started cheering before they even arrived. Night fell like a phone battery warning. They reached the Adventurer Guild. Abel said him to get his guild card. It's like a VIP pass to skip fees and show off. He joked that paying a silver coin was like buying a sidekick. Ryo laughed. Best deal ever. Abel pretended he didn't want coins like a kid caught stealing cookies, but Ryo thanked him anyway. The guild bought magic stones and monster bits, perfect for lazy adventurers who don't want to make potions themselves. Then, bam, curry and rice appeared like secret DLC. Food. Usually, curry in Fantasy Worlds is locked behind crazy quests, but this one just popped up like, surprise, eat immediately. Ryo's eyes got huge like he'd seen a magic unicorn. Curry was legendary, spicy, and dreamy. Abel asked what was up, and Ryo played it cool. Then he ate it like a vacuum, cleaner with no breaks. Curry and rice were the best team ever. This was the ultimate power couple. Ryo asked if Loon had this curry too. Abel said yes, so Ryo added it to his food map. The curry was so good, even the plate looked sad when empty. Next morning, they were still talking about the meal. Abel acted surprised Ryo liked it so much. Ryo teased him for hiding food secrets. Ryo wanted to know about dessert, and Abel said he'd think about spilling the beans. They packed up and headed home. Golden wheat fields waved hello like friendly giants. A guard named Namur spotted Abel and thanked him. Abel paid the entry fee like a generous king. They went straight to the Adventurer Guild. Abel explained that newbies usually start at rank F, but with his recommendation, Ryo could start higher. Since Abel was B rank, he gave a big thumbs up for Ryo. Money wasn't a problem. Loot was like a treasure chest bursting with gold, but too much loot could crash the market. Abel trusted the guildmaster to handle it. Inside, people cheered like it was a surprise party. Abel's back, time to celebrate. While Abel got mobbed by fans, Ryo stood quietly. Then a girl appeared, said his clothes were cool, and left like a side quest. Ryo blinked. Abel grabbed him and told everyone Ryo saved his life. Hero status unlocked. Everyone thanked Ryo. His name started trending like a celebrity. Abel pushed for Ryo to get rank D. The receptionist said the Crimson Sword never gave recommendations. Abel said Ryo earned it. They needed proof, so a meeting with the guildmaster was set. Guildmaster Humaglass welcomed them. Super relieved Abel was alive. He nearly had a heart attack, he said. Hugh thanked Ryo like he saved the whole city. Ryo pulled out a sack of magic stones like a walking monster farm. Hugh's eyes popped big time. So many stones it looked like Rio soloed a raid boss. Abel said they came from wyverns near the scary Malefic Mountains. Hugh was shocked. Nobody crosses those mountains in lives? Abel asked if stones proved it. Spoiler, they did. Hugh approved. Rio's rank upgrade faster than a speedrun. Abel stamped it like a boss manager. Suddenly, a door slammed. A girl ran in and hugged Abel. Lynn, Rhea, and Warren, Abel's squad, joined the fun. Tears, hugs, and happy vibes filled the room. Hugh told Nina to do the paperwork. Crimson Sword was basically the town celebrity club. Ryo went from unknown to MVP in one cutscene. They wondered if rank D was too low. Hugh said even Abel couldn't solo wyvern, so Ryo must be powerful. The guildmaster didn't see a normal adventure, he saw a whole boss fight. Nina started the registration. She explained the steps. Free lodging for 300 days after joining. Monthly dungeon training classes. Rio signed up right away. Class started in 2 days at 9 a.m. Nina pointed to the clock and says him to not be late. She gave Rio a glowing registration crystal, like getting a game power-up. Bam, official adventurer unlocked. Hugh planned to spread the news of Abel's survival. Hype levels went way up. Time to collect payment for the escort mission. Abel wanted to buy Rio clothes and a staff, but Rio didn't have a staff, just a tiny sword hidden like a secret weapon. He cast spells without gear. Total cheat code move. Rio asks him how the world worked. Turns out it had days, weeks, and months just like Earth. Measurements were in centimeters and curry was everywhere. Abel came back with gear. The squad threw a mini party for Rio. Food, laughs, and clapping. Rio was the guest of honor. Abel's return was the spark everyone needed. After the party, Rio walked with Nina. She said Ra admired Abel. Nils and Ito popped up, training nearby. They waved like friendly NPCs. Nina left and the boys started chatting. Nils said Nina was pretty. Ito joked all clerks were super competitive. One of them said the real dream was to be awesome and get noticed by cool girls. Nina came back with a new adventurer, Eamon, 16, ready to start his journey. She and Ryo would attend the dungeon course together. Party members unlocked. Meanwhile, Abel's squad argued about magic. Lynn, the friend of Abel, didn't believe water magic was strong. Ice walls floating in air. Sounds like a fairy tale. Abel said Ryo's magic was next level. Even Ryo was impressed. Lynn doubted ice spears could break wyvern windshields. Abel swore it happened. Rhea told stories about the Inferno magician who burned armies solo. She compared Rio to that. If Rio joined the Empire, game over. Abel said don't worry. The Debui Empire had a cursed name and bad vibes. The squad didn't get it but trusted Abel. For now, chill mode was on. One thing was clear, Rio was special. The big dungeon adventure finally started. The squad was super excited but also a little nervous, like when waiting for the ice cream truck to arrive. Amon was bouncing around like a squirrel who drank 10 cups of coffee. Rio joked that if he used up all his energy now, he would be snoozing by lunchtime. Everyone laughed, but the butterflies in their stomachs kept fluttering. Before going in, the teacher gathered everyone for a quick question time. Rio surprised everyone by asking if teleporting to places already visited in the dungeon was possible. The teacher blinked like, wait, seriously? Then smiled and said that in some dungeons far south, sure, but not in their hometown dungeon, Loon. Just stories and wishful thinking there. Eamon looked at Rio like he just found out he was secretly a wizard spy. Rio shrugged and said he heard it from someone once. Still, it felt like secret info. The dungeon wasn't just some scary hole, it was like the town's big, creepy basement. The whole city had grown around it, like a giant tree with roots underground. Near the town gate was the guild office, where adventurers usually signed in and out, but today was special. It was school time for monster fighters. The squad stepped into the dungeon's first layer. No scary monsters yet, just a gentle warm-up. Like training wheels on a bike, but in a dark, spooky cave. They could explore freely but had to stay near the teacher. Suddenly, the air buzzed. Rio and Eamon both felt it. Something was nearby. Rio pointed, and out came a soldier ant, the tutorial boss of the dungeon bugs. It might look small, but its neck was its weak spot. Anyone who ignored that usually got smacked hard. Rio fired his Icicle Lance 8 spell like a frosty rocket launcher. Eamon followed with a sharp sword slash. The ant fell down, defeated. Loot time! They grabbed a magic stone, because no first mission feels complete without treasure to brag about. The sun set, and the team finished with 0 injuries. Score! Back at the base, Ito's eyes sparkled as he praised Ryo's first strike. Amon was ready for round 2, wanting to jump back in right away, but dungeon solo wasn't the best idea. Rio offered to join next time and planned a trip to the 3rd layer. They'd heard soldier ants were showing up in the wrong places, trouble brewing. Abel, the cool local adventurer, dropped by with news. Soldier ants were digging up early. Smart bugs, bad timing. Rio teased that veterans were picking on newbies. Abel laughed and called it motivational therapy, like tough love from monsters. Then came introductions. Abel, the walking chaos, asked Ryo's roommates to babysit him, not because he was weak, but because of some weird habits. Nils, already half a fanboy, introduced himself with so much excitement he could have named a pet after Abel. They shook hands like they just signed a game contract. He reminded everyone to stay alive, classic adventurer advice. When asked why he was late, he said he'd just returned from a crazy time warp quest. Then Rhea showed up, pulling Abel to meet the guildmaster. Lynn stared at Rio like she was trying to read secret cheat codes in his brain. The squad disappeared down the hallway, Abel being dragged like a stubborn kid refusing bedtime. On the way back, Rhea told Lynn to calm down a bit. Lynn didn't blink, too focused on Rio's skills. Abel joked the magic show was just getting started, so lots of drama ahead. The next monster hut began with Eamon slicing enemies like chopping onions, fast and smooth, reminding everyone of Abel's style. Eamon shared that his teacher was Kiro, a retired adventurer from a famous royal sword school. Top-tier training, like the Olympics of sword fighting. Rio, mostly known as a mage, handled his sword like he had a grudge. His fighting style had no fancy name, just pure vibes. He told Eamon to think of training like running a marathon. Build stamina now, look cool later. Even Abel, the natural talent, didn't skip basic drills. Discipline mattered. Eamon got inspired, ready to practice hard and level up. The next day, Rio skipped dungeon duty and hit the library. First trip, he left with a bag full of magic books and a cookbook, because adventuring needs brains and snacks. While Rio was thinking about book prices, the sky suddenly went dark, not just cloudy, but a full eclipse. Then, out of nowhere, fire magic rained down like a fiery disco party. Quick on his feet, Rio used ice magic to dodge the fiery doom. Then, a mysterious girl. Her eyes were like fire alarms and her attitude was even hotter. Rio sensed danger, maybe an Akuma, maybe worse. Escape crossed his mind, but he had just enough time to cast a protective barrier. Even her famous Hellfire attack got blocked. She was impressed but thought Ryo's magic was bold and a little silly. Then she noticed the Fairy King's robes he wore. Her mood switched instantly. No more fireballs, now weapons were drawn. She charged like a rollerblading tornado. Rio dodged and parried, sparks flying everywhere. Her attacks were fast but didn't have the pressure of true masters. Still, she fought fiercely and demanded to know who Rio was. A new wave of strikes came. Rio blocked and countered, landing a clean hit. She healed in the middle of battle like a boss character, laughing arrogantly. Then, out of nowhere, a surprise fireball hit her. She vanished, only to reappear after the sky cleared. She said the fight was fun and that it had been ages since she felt so alive. Her name was Leonor Urraca Albuquerque, fancy enough to be royalty, and her favorite hobby was chaos. Before leaving, she boldly claimed Rio as her property, which sounds so wild. She promised to come back stronger. Rio's future just got bookmarked by a firestorm. Exhausted, he limped away. But just as he headed out, shock struck. His roommates were under attack. Time for a dramatic entrance? No warning, just icy justice from Rio. The attackers didn't stand a chance. Dan, the ringleader from room 11, got introduced to Regret. Rio handed Ito a healing potion and told the team to rest. Ito patched the bruises with magic. No broken bones, but the hits felt like getting run over by a truck. That attack, if it had landed better, could have been disastrous. But Rio promised to explain everything later. The battlefield cooled down like leftover fries. Kinda sad, but still there. Goblins disappeared faster than cookies when someone says, "Who wants dessert?" Rio kept thinking about yesterday's fight like it was the hardest video game level ever. Leonor's magic was wild, fast and flashy, like a dance party where everyone's showing off their coolest moves. If her spells had a TikTok, they'd have millions of views and sparkly effects. Time to get stronger, like a video game hero leveling up. Weaknesses had to become strengths, even if that meant using funny tricks. Leonor's blink move was like teleporting with super fast internet, zoom. But Rio couldn't do wind magic, so he picked water magic instead. Rio chose water jet, a skill for fish but perfect for land chaos. He blasted off like a rocket with way too much energy. It was a little messy, like trying to skateboard on jelly. It kinda worked. Maybe it looked cooler in Rio's imagination, but hey, practice makes a man perfect. When in doubt, just spam magic. Anyways, the next stop is the library. Forbidden books are like mystery treasure chests waiting to be opened. Lynn went on a solo mission. No fighting, just books as tall as giant chairs. The library was so quiet it felt spooky, like a ghost might pop out with a boo. She opened forbidden books like cursed fortune cookies. No magic spells, just dusty old pages. The spell she wanted probably needed crazy scientist energy to make. Even the smartest wizard would cry over those books. Maybe ancient fire wizards made something close, but that's like asking a toaster to do math. Supers. Weird. Sarah arrived in the middle of Lynn's book mess, looking like a hurricane. Lynn gave up, like a game character running out of magic power. Sarah just came back from a big city mission, no time to relax. An important messenger was already waiting, tapping her foot like a slow-loading screen. Back at the guild, Nina welcomed the team like a boss. Eamon, Nils, and Ito showed off shiny magic stones from the dungeon's 5th level. The place was usually quiet, but now it was popping like soda cans. Nina's eyes went big. Not wow big, more like uh-oh big. She sent a report to the guildmaster, sounding alarms like a video game emergency. Nina put a giant red flag on the board, like a YouTube video thumbnail yelling, "Watch now." Guild leader Hugh McGlass frowned like a final boss ready for battle. Goblins showed up too early, like spoilers before the movie started. They were supposed to appear after level 10, not this early. Either the system messed up or something huge was coming, like a monster tsunami. They checked for B-rank squads, Crimson Sword, and White Brigade. Phelps, the White Brigade leader, was there. Time to assemble the team like a superhero squad. Hugh planned to handle the rest, juggling many side quests. Abel was stuck being socially awkward, like a frozen robot. Rhea rolled her eyes so hard it almost made wind magic. Lynn told Abel to stop whining and level up like an outdated app. Around the strategy table, Phelps nodded while Hugh shared the news. Goblins on level 5 were real. Magic stones proved it, like receipts for bad goblin behavior. Phelps skipped small talk and got to the point: go down, find signs of the tidal boar, and survive. Fun if fun means being monster snacks. The tidal boar means monster spawns going wild. It's been 10 years since the last one. This one was on time, like a cursed birthday party no one wanted. Reha did the math. Early goblins might be the start. Hugh tossed coins like a game shopkeeper. 100 now, 200 later. Knights were called, and fort plans started. The dungeon entrance looked abandoned, with double walls like a super strong castle. Everyone agreed. Time to get serious. 2 elite squads said yes without blinking. Only legends here. Ryo planned to visit the north side library. He heard it has more advanced books than the south side, especially about alchemy. His friend Ito said only D-rank adventurers can enter, but Ryo qualifies. To read the forbidden texts, he needs to be B-rank, but they believe he'll get there soon. Meanwhile, Nils and the others were heading to the dungeon again. Ryo went to the library. It was huge, and he realized he'd need help finding the right books, but he worried people would think he was crazy if he said he wanted to study Akumas. Surprisingly, Sarah was also there. Elsewhere, Abel and Phelps were gathering C-rank adventurers for a dungeon raid. Hugh stood at the dungeon gate ready. Suddenly, Lynn used wind magic to scan the area. Monsters, hundreds of them, were coming fast. Hugh immediately ordered a retreat. Runners sent warnings to the knights and guilds. Back at the library, Sarah noticed Ryo. He told her about his golem and alchemy project. She helped him like a guide. They had a great conversation. Meanwhile, the battlefield was madness of goblins, arrows, spells, warriors. Everyone was fighting. Even water became precious. Lynn saved her magic carefully. Supplies were running out. People were using anything they could to fight. Nils returned with bad news that something worse was coming. The Crimson Sword group was chosen to face it. Just as the goblin wave stopped, it was time to go deeper. No ropes or ladders, just wild wall jumps. 3 goblin generals appeared, mini-bosses. Then came the real boss, the Goblin King. In one hit, he took out 3 elite goblins like they were nothing. Abel and Phelps were the only ones strong enough to fight back. Abel used his strongest moves. It looked like a win, but the king barely reacted. Then Lynn used her ultimate spell, Bullet Rain. Magic fell from the sky like a storm. They finally beat the Goblin King. Phelps was amazed. Back at the library, he left with sharp eyes and big dreams. His golem plan was just beginning, and the real adventure hadn't even started yet. All the guys are having a blast at the party. They are drinking as if they have not had a drink in ages. They are eating meat like they have never seen it before. Ryo is shocked to witness this party scene. Meanwhile, Hugh is envious of the guys who are able to join the party. He wishes he could be drinking. He is overburdened with work. He manages the guild, makes reports to the capital, requests for funds for the great tidal boar handles, paperwork for payouts, does assessments of the adventurers who participated, and plans to restore and replenish the facilities. He has a lot on his plate to handle for a human. He is worried that researchers from the capital are going to show up wanting to study what happened, even though the dungeon is going to be sealed for a month. He is definitely underwater. They are celebrating the end of the great tidal boar at the guild. Lynn and Rhea enter the guild together. Ryo has his priorities straight. He finds the celebration to be a good reason to drink alcohol. Nils approaches him to tell him that he should have seen Abel when Abel thrust his sword at the Goblin King and gave Lynn the signal to unleash a crazy spell. Abel is the only one who was able to dodge one of the most powerful wind spells, the Bullet Rain with the sword skill, Perfect Shadow. Abel says it is a technique for dodging any kind of ranged attack, including magic. Everyone is really impressed by Abel's abilities. Lynn and Rhea come to find Abel. Rhea knew he would be with Ryo. She asks Abel if Ryo is his favorite pal, and Ryo feels a bit of hostility. Lynn asks Ryo if he is really able to conjure an ice wall way up in the air. Ryo reveals that 40 meters or more is his limit. It is not child's play, and it took Ryo quite a while to master. Most people cannot do it at all. Lynn asks him if it is some kind of original spell because most magic is invoked by reciting existing incantations. Ryo explains that it comes down to personal preference and everyone has a different style of incantations. After hearing that the buffet is closing soon, Ryo takes his leave from Lynn and Rhea. Abel says that Ryo can cast spells even without incantations, and this goes beyond strange. Later, Nils, Eamon, and Ito stand in front of the dungeon feeling hopeless after finding no jobs. Ryo approaches them to learn the reason they are not working. With the dungeon closed, they thought of taking some collection quests on the surface, but there has been such an influx the past few days that buyers are rescinding their usual requests. Ryo is looking for some ore, but it is all sold out. He needed it because he wanted to practice alchemy. Ito asks if he is talking about magic copper ore, which is really expensive. Ryo found one at the store for 50 gold coins. Ryo is rich while others cannot even earn if they want to. Ryo offers the 3 of them a job. There is a magic copper ore vein outside the dungeon, and Ryo wants to find it. There is an abandoned mine near the village of Rusay. Ryo offers them 4 gold coins as pay, and he will buy the magic copper ore for 25 gold coins per piece. His only concern is that the 3 of them make it back safely. Later, Ryo witnesses some evil guys harassing a girl. A man is trying to save her from the armed men. One armed man takes out his sword to teach the poor guy a lesson for getting in his way. But suddenly, the armed man fell over and could not move his leg. It was Phelps doing as he was standing behind them. He shouts at them for behaving without manners while being knights of the kingdom. Phelps is annoyed nobleman and heir to the House of Heinlein. He is the son of the former Knights commander. The Knights quickly vanish from the scene on Phelps's orders. Phelps encourages Dan, the man who intervened to save the girl. Phelps looks up at the window and greets Rio. Phelps introduces himself as the captain of the White Brigade. Phelps has heard about Rio's magic power through Abel. Rio and Abel sit together at the cafe. Rio refuses to treat Abel to lunch as he is the junior. Rio teases Abel that there must be a lucky girl who has caught his eye. Abel tells Rio that Lynn has a crush on Warren. Rio thinks they are a striking pair and that love can overcome a little height difference. Rio knows that Abel is interested in Riha, and Abel's reaction just confirmed it. He might as well have hearts popping out of his eyes. Abel decides to use Rio's help. One of the dispatchers sent to Lune is an old friend of Abel's. Abel is trying to collect some runaway knights tonight before they cause trouble. Rio spots some unknown adventurers who are hiding their faces. Many travelers come to explore the dungeon from time to time, but the thing is, the dungeon is closed at the moment. Rio and Abel catch them and hand them over to the guards. Later, a bunch of knights follow Phelps to take their revenge. Shenna takes the matter into her own hands and deals with them even before they bother Phelps. Hugh agrees to open the dungeon on the Majesty's request, but he makes himself clear that if anything happens, then the town of Line and the guild would not be held responsible. A girl with big blue eyes approaches Rio. She is nervous. She asks Rio to take her to the guild quickly. She hands an envelope to Abel sent by Professor Hilarion. The professor has asked for the guild support for the court magicians as they investigate the dungeon. The dungeon is closed because decades ago an A-rank party never returned from it. Their leader was said to be superhuman and he still did not make it back alive. No one knows what goes on in the dungeon following a great title bore. Sounds like a 1-star review. The dungeon is going to be open tomorrow, but some adventurers are sad because only D-rankers and above will be allowed to enter. The next morning, Hugh gives a briefing to all members regarding the dungeon. The E and F rankers are not invited to the investigation team. Rio raises a question about a magic stone being discovered from the monsters in the boar. Hugh reveals that all of the magic stones collected from the great title boar were pale. That includes the Goblin King and the Goblin Generals. Rio regrets asking the man a simple question. The man sent from the capital, Clive Staples, investigates the dungeon with his team. They find a large entrance inside that might be connected to another location, maybe to paradise or hell. Clive refers to it as the gate for their purposes. He orders his men to set up the equipment and begin examining it as soon as possible. Abel asks Lynn, Rihia, and Warren if they are all alright. They have been relocated and don't know where they are. They start examining their surroundings because they have no idea what might be coming. The director Staples thinks the gate was responsible for what happened. The theory is that the monsters from this great title boar came from below the 38th layer of the dungeon. There is a high chance the gate was the source of it all. He believes that discovering the real root of the title boar, which contradicts the prevailing theory, will make an excellent finding. He decides to build scaffolding for his ascent to department head. They notice something strange that catches their attention. They are shocked to see the readings have vanished. Meanwhile, Christopher Blatt from the College of Magic comes there. He asks if there is something anomalous in the dungeon. Moments ago, people entering the dungeon disappeared while making their way in with the local adventurers they had hired. Crossing the threshold, they vanished before his eyes. They tell Christopher about the vanishings on the 10th layer. There were signs only for a moment. The reading was from the 40th layer. Christopher remembers the farthest any adventurer has made it is the 38th layer. Anything beyond that is difficult even for B rank. He is informed that one of Lune's B rank parties, the Crimson Sword, was escorting their team, and there's a high chance they are still together. For now, he has sent a messenger to the Adventurers Guild. The guildmaster will come as soon as he hears. Natalie runs while Nina goes to Hugh and informs him about the banishing of the investigating team. He immediately decides to go there and orders Nina to have their liaisons assemble at the dungeon checkpoint and not tell anything to their adventurers until he is back. Rio goes to the library, though he has no idea where the books are. He finds Sarah there and informs her he hoped to compare records of past eclipses and great title boars, but doesn't know where to look. Sarah promises to help him find books. She asks Rio if he thinks there might be a link between eclipses and great title boars. Rio only thinks vaguely that there is a link. Sarah believes his theory is correct because there has always been an eclipse before a great title boar. She looked into this subject before, but is curious what tipped him off. He knows he can't tell her he was fighting an Akuma in the middle of the eclipse. He changes the topic to the vividness of magic stones. She knows the longer a monster lives, the more vivid its stone becomes. She tells him about pale stones, which imply the monsters only recently spawned. He tells about goblins and their generals and kings. It is unheard of for a cohort like that to spawn suddenly, but if they were created artificially, that would have taken considerable energy. He questions whether she already knew the magic stones were pale. She knew from past records which are not in good condition, so even librarians don't know about them. On the other hand, Harold Lawrence tells Abel the sensation they felt was just like he experienced teleportation in a dungeon of the Western Province. They don't know where they are currently. It is safe to say they were forcibly relocated. Harold sees that the wind magic in this device appears to be working. The air here is bothering him. He asks Rhea if it reminds her of anything. She is reminded of Sanctuary Square, as in the spell only the highest ranked priests can cast. Its protection is said to deflect all offensive spells and physical attacks. Abel concludes they have been trapped inside some kind of barrier. He asks Lynn if she can use Prove to check for anything of note note around them. She detects multiple humans at about 500 meters ahead. Harold thinks they can assume Clive and his team were whisked to wherever this is. They decide to rendezvous. Meanwhile, Hugh is informed about the reading. He cannot believe this because even if they mobilize every adventurer in town, they would never make it that far. Christopher questions why these people vanished. He apologizes to Hugh because he and his subordinate cannot risk going into a situation so uncertain. Hugh realizes they can only pray for their safety. Meanwhile, the team is getting killed by devils. They are requested to stay inside their barriers. Clive has only read about them before, but they match the description. Abel and Harold wonder what is going on. Rhea tells them about devils who are enemies of the gods and angels and are stronger than humans. Harold tells his team to get ready to hem them in. They launch air javelin, fire javelin, and stone javelin. Rhea thinks magic is ineffective against them, but Harold says it has never been confirmed. There are too many devils, so Harold thinks they will be out of mana. Harold tells Abel the fourth volley will be their last as they have no firepower left. Abel decides to move to melee combat. The Crimson Sword group fights the devils. Harold sees that the Crimson Sword lives up to its reputation. They kill devils one after another. Lynn and Rhea are out of mana, still 6 devils left. Rhea points at a devil she thinks might be a demon prince because he has different colored eyes. A demon prince is the immature form of a demon lord. Only 4 can exist at once. One will become the demon lord. There is no record of anyone except a hero defeating one. Abel goes in intending to beat them all except the prince. He believes in exceptions. The demon prince hits Rhea, wanting to do this one-on-one. He is frighteningly fast and strong. Abel cannot envision a way to win. Their spells have been deflected. The devils break the barriers and kill those men. Abel stays strong. He enables his zero turn, trying hard to hit the demon prince but fails. The demon prince is about to slaughter Abel when Rhea cries. Her tear brings Rio to the place, who asks Abel if he is hurt. Rio never thought he would see Abel on the verge of death because of something like that. Rio seeing Abel almost dead over something so weak is like watching a lion trip on a pebble. Rio tells them to head back and ensures to handle the demon prince. Rio cannot believe anything. This weak is kin to a demon lord. He enables his Icicle Lance 6 and Water Jet, which kills 3 devils at once. He takes out his sword to get over of the demon prince. Natalie rapidly huffs as Ito shares news of Ryo's location in the North Side Library. Without a moment's hesitation, Natalie runs to Ryo and informs the adventurer about the missing Abel and the rest of the party. An ice cart forms immediately, and the two set off. Abel's instructions were for Natalie to turn to Ryo whenever a problem arises and Abel is not around. Like a loyal sidekick, the adventurer always knows when to show up. Ryo enters the dungeon. Using magical powers, the adventurer descends deep inside to rescue Abel and the party. Like a delivery service, the hero makes a special drop-off at the deepest level. In the present time, Ryo stands before the demon prince. With a single blow, the figure slices the head of the demon king, but the head reattaches. The demon king survives. Rio considers the demon king to be a weakling and decides to test the regenerative capacity. Rio's power, Abrasive Jet, shatters the demon king's magic stone. Like a science experiment, Rio tests the limits of magic. Abel thanks Rio for the rescue, but Rio requests to receive the gratitude in the form of dinner at a cafe, like a superhero who prefers a free meal over a medal. The members of the Crimson Sword are also relieved to see Abel safe and sound. Harold Lawrence, an advisor at the Bureau of Royal Magicians and the representative for the court investigation, thanks Rio for the assistance. Harold is sad because not all party members are alive. Abel and Ryo go to retrieve the devil magic stones. The plan is to split the money from the sale of the stones among the families of the fallen. The adventurers have never faced the devils before. Apparently, the creatures have not appeared in the central provinces for hundreds of years. After deep thought, Ryo says that when descending from layer 39, a special field was present, but it disappeared at some point. The adventurer thinks this must be because the demon prince was defeated. Ryo also noticed something strange near the stairs after using a probe spell on the 39th layer. Later, a black magic crystal is found. It is Harold's first time seeing a magic stone from a devil, as a previous encounter in the Western Province ended without success. Devils are said to appear suddenly and randomly, which suggests they can use space-time magic. Meanwhile, Leonore takes a peek after noticing something strange and finds herself before a man-made altar. A hero named Roman calls her a demon lord and tells her to stop. The group is protecting the altar, built upon great sacrifices, as it is well known that lighting it will cause the demon lord to appear. Roman declares that a hero is present and will slay the demon lord. Leonore laughs abruptly. The battle ends before it even begins. She slashes Roman with a sword. The others get scared as she collects the sacred jewel. A memory of Rio, a very strong human unlike the others, comes to mind. Leonore says that a demon lord is not present, tells Roman that there are humans 10,000 times stronger, and then departs. Elsewhere, adventures from Lune are warped into the 10th and 11th layers. Like a bad hero movie, the villain is way more powerful than advertised. The adventurers see the magical stone, which was giving off mana just moments ago. Harold takes it as evidence. On the way back, Abel thanks Ryo for the rescue. In return for the favor, Ryo asks Abel for some information, the best curry shop in Lune. Abel promises to take Ryo to the curry shop for a treat. Like a negotiation, the adventurer asks for a very specific reward. Later on, the group meets Hugh, who is relieved to see Abel is safe. Hugh thought the party was done for this time. Hugh sees Ryo and demands to know what the adventurer was thinking when pushing the guards aside and entering the dungeon. Harold stops Hugh from getting harsh on Rio, stating that the group is alive because of Ryo's actions. Hugh thanks Ryo for saving everyone. Later, Harold informs Ryo about the devils and the Demon King. Harold tells the whole story of what happened. Like a narrator, Harold provides all the details. He is very impressed by Ryo, who killed the Demon King in a flash of light. A sense of relief comes from knowing the country has a good magician. Instructions are given to Hugh to keep Ryo's name away from the brain-dead aristocrats, and a decision is made to leave no official record of the deed. Like a PR manager, Harold tries to keep the new star out of the public eye. Later on, Ryo has full stamina and runs fast, but the others are already tired. A hero finds Sarah sitting in a cafe. Coincidentally, the smell of curry entices the adventurer into the shop where Sarah is found. Rare, the two converse. Sarah asks about Ryo's rank and living situation. Sitting together, they eat a medium-hot curry. Like a hungry superhero, the hero follows the scent of a good meal. After finishing the curry, Ryo asks about Sarah and discovers that she is a swordsmanship instructor for the Margrave Loon Order for Knights. She asks Ryo to join a mock bout. On the battlefield, Sarah realizes that Ryo has not been able to scratch the itch for combat. Sarah wields both a blade and magic, so a sense of knowing about the adventurer's sword-fighting style is present. The fight begins. None of the knights could avoid Sarah's charges, but Ryo is able to dodge them alone. Sarah gets faster, but Ryo keeps dodging the attacks. Sarah surrenders and hugs Ryo, relieved because of the amazing performance. Like a star athlete on a team of rookies, the adventurer stands out from the rest. Sarah is surprised to learn that the Fairy King taught Ryo to fight. She is able to tell on an intuitive level thanks to her race. A sense is present that the Fairy King took a liking to the adventurer, especially since a robe was also gifted. The Fairy King is a legend, so the fact that Ryo was taught by a legend is very odd. A girl named Ria Lita comes to inform Sarah about a class. Sarah orders Ria Lita to show Ryo the way home. While on the way back, Hugh sees Ryo. Hugh is surprised to see Ryo and asks the adventurer to sit inside the carriage. Hugh expresses gratitude for Ryo's rescue of everyone, but also says that an order for guards not to enter the dungeon cannot be ignored. A punishment job is assigned. Like a principal, he gives a punishment that is actually a reward. Ryo receives a non-dungeon job as a punishment. The job involves a round trip to a destination called Whitnash to see some merchants and then return. Like a punishment that's actually a nice vacation. A few days later, Nils suddenly approaches Ryo at the dormitory with a serious expression and formally requests his assistance. Curious about the matter, Ryo asks what has him so worked up. Nils explains that his hometown has asked for help in exterminating monsters. The quest is only available for D-rank adventurers, but since the rest of his group is stuck at E rank or lower, he wants Ryo to temporarily join them so they can qualify. Edo then comments that goblins and skeletons are unusual companions, rarely appearing in the same territory. This makes Ryo laugh out loud, admitting that he hasn't had the chance to fight skeletons in this world yet. Excited by the idea, he agrees to accept the mission, and the group heads straight for the guild. When they arrive, Hugh double-checks whether they are confident about accepting such a dangerous task, especially since the village in question is nearby. Nils insists that he must return to support his people. Hugh informs them that he already dispatched 2 groups in E rank and even a D rank team, but both failed to deal with the monsters. The revelation shocks everyone, since neither goblins nor skeletons should be this troublesome. Hugh adds that the D rank team claimed the villagers were uncooperative, which strikes Nils as strange because his villagers are not the type to turn away allies. With a sigh, Hugh allows them to accept the quest, admitting that, as someone raised in a small village himself, he understands the sense of duty. Still, he warns them about the danger and reminds Ryo that his mandatory escort assignment begins soon, though this quest can be finished beforehand. The group sets off and reaches the village quickly thanks to the stamina they've built from daily training. The villagers warmly welcome Nils, much to Ryo's surprise, as he assumed Nils had been cast out for his antics. Nils fumes at the comment, though he can't fully deny it. Leaving the group, he meets with the chief, Bulan, who greets him with joy. After Nils introduces his companions, the discussion shifts to the monster hunting mission. Bulan notes that things might proceed more smoothly this time since Nils knows the local traditions, but Nils asks about the strange rumor of villagers refusing to cooperate with the D-rank adventurers. Bulan explains, when the first E-rank party came, they ignored local warnings and entered the forbidden depths of the forest, returning injured and empty-handed. Because of that failure, trust was already broken by the time the D-rank group arrived, and the villagers rejected them outright. Nils understands their reaction, though he also knows his companions need more context. Unfortunately, the full truth is considered a village secret. He promises to request permission from the council before revealing more. That evening, they stay at Nils's home, where his younger brother and sister greet them. The siblings recall how Nils dreamed of becoming an adventurer the moment he came of age, but after their parents' death, he remained behind to raise them until they could stand on their own. Soon, Nils returns from his meeting with the village council, announcing that he has been granted permission to share the secret. He makes his friends promise to keep it confidential and begins to explain that their village is unique in 2 ways. First, a guardian beast resides in the eastern forest. The very idea excites Ryo, who immediately imagines a scenario where the beast becomes corrupted by a dark god and attacks them. Nils pulls him out of his daydream with irritation and continues, the second special feature is the village shrine. He explains that the elder herself will show them the shrine tomorrow and urges everyone to rest for the upcoming fight. The following day, Bulan escorts them to the outskirts where goblins are known to roam. Ito and Amen notice fresh tracks and suspect a nest nearby. Suddenly, Ryo senses goblins approaching. Nils proposes proposes they eliminate all but one, allowing the survivor to retreat home and reveal the nest's location. Soon, the goblins appear, and Ryo traps them with ice magic. The others strike down the helpless enemies, sparing one who flees toward the cave. They trail the creature and watch it chatter to others outside. Ryo quickly freezes the group, letting his companions finish them. Moments later, the goblin general emerges, towering over the rest. Fear ripples through the party, but Ryo shackles the monster with icy chains and calls for Nils to strike the final blow. Together, they kill the goblin boss, harvest the core, and return to the village triumphant. Back home, the elder awaits, pleased with their success. She leads them toward the shrine, carrying a staff with a charm that catches Ito's attention. As he questions her, Ryo once again drifts into fanciful thoughts of the guardian beast turning evil. Nils scolds him before Ito identifies the charm as the emblem of the Earth Mother Goddess. The elder, impressed by his knowledge, explains that long ago, 7 gods were worshipped throughout the land, but now nearly all devotion is directed toward the goddess of light. Her village, however, has preserved its devotion to the Earth Goddess across generations. She adds that she herself wields healing magic. Soon they reach the guardian beast's cavern. Calling him forth, she introduces Nils and his companions. Ryo eagerly awaits a terrifying monster, only for a massive wolf to step out. Disappointment flickers across his face, though the wolf introduces himself kindly. To everyone's shock, the beast shares his name, Enkuazen, with Ryo, something he had never done for humans before. Enkuazen explains that humans find his true name unpronounceable, so he rarely offers it. He reveals his kinship with fairies and admits Ryo's aura is exceptionally pleasant. Though baffled, Ryo recalls how warmly the Fairy King treated him, realizing there must be something special about him after all. The wolf then explains the task. Within the shrine are 30 skeletons, sealed alongside a powerful leader, and he has been suppressing them all this time. They must be defeated before confronting the boss. The party agrees. Ito unleashes his light magic to shatter the regular skeletons quickly. Once they are down, Eamon and Nils push open the shrine doors, revealing the colossal skeleton commander. Ryo transforms their swords into ice-forged hammers and tells him to strike while he restrains the monster. Before the fight begins, he creates a huge ice flower in the sky. At the signal, Enkuazen releases the seal and the boss charges out. Ryo manipulates the ice to make the beast slip repeatedly, giving Amon and Nils the chance to pummel it until it finally collapses. With victory secured, the group ventures into the shrine's depths, an area even the elder had never entered. There, they find a statue of the Earth Goddess holding a shattered orb. The elder recalls that long ago, the statue's jewel glowed brightly before darkening and eventually breaking apart. She also remembers Enkuazen mentioning that unusual mana flows into this cave from elsewhere, likely spawning the monsters. Concerned, she seals the shrine with magic to prevent further corruption from escaping. With their mission complete, the adventurers head home. Along the way, they remark that nearly 300 days have passed since they first began their journey, meaning their dormitory stay will soon end. Nils and Ito reveal that they've already started planning for that day and invite Ryo and Amon to move into a rented house with them. Amon accepts immediately, while Ryo hesitates, explaining that he needs more time to consider the offer since other matters weigh on his mind. Upon their return journey, Ryo considers that he might just be in time for the rice harvest if he heads back to the Rondo Forest after his current job. He learns that Nils wants to name his party Room 10. This will be their first job as a new party, and although they have never done escort work before, they are confident they can handle it with Ryo's help. Ryo notes that they have 9 days between their arrival and departure, which coincides with the city of Whitnash's Open Port Festival, an event that occurs every 5 years. Ryo is very excited to hear about the festivities. The party arrives in Whitnash and finds a lively festival in full swing, with countless food stalls. They all rush to get something to eat. Ryo enjoys a plate of fish and chips, and everyone else finds their favorite foods to enjoy. The next morning, a white-haired man named Oscar, who is the lieutenant, is informed by an informant that a carriage from the monarchy of Kufaris is experiencing issues causing a traffic jam. Oscar finds it strange that His Majesty would want them to investigate the sea, given that the empire is landlocked. He speculates that the king might be taking care of some personal business while Princess Fiona is away. The informant mentions that Fiona has incredible magical talent and dedication, having become a commander in the court's magic divisions at only 17, in addition to her great beauty. The informant believes that while the king loves Fiona as his youngest daughter and a valuable magical asset, he might want to spare her from the more unpleasant aspects of his rule, such as a purge of nobles who oppose the royal family. Regardless of the reason, Oscar's duty is to guard the commander, and he intends to do just that. That night, a grand gathering of nobles takes place inside the palace. The beautiful, red-haired Princess Fiona stands alone. Her older brother, Prince Conrad, notices her isolation. Later, Fiona retreats to her bedroom and collapses onto her bed. Parties are not her style. She is much more comfortable in the commander's office or on the training yard. Her maid, Marie, is with her. Fiona constantly wonders how her brother, who is only 3 years older than her, handles the endless stream of guests while also looking out for her. She herself possesses peerless talent with both the sword and magic. The next day, everyone in the town gathers for the festival. Nils' eyes are fixed on Princess Fiona, who is seated in a VIP section. Amon informs him that as an imperial princess, she is even further out of his league than Nina. The Crimson Sword members unexpectedly show up, and Ryo realizes that the man sitting next to Princess Fiona is Abel. Lynn observes that the VIP seats are protected by a very thick wind elemental shield. Lynn has heard that the lords of Whitnash have a family treasure that can project such a wind barrier. It is not used often because it is inefficient, but the presence of the imperial family justifies any excessive cost to prevent an act of terrorism that could lead to war. Amon finds the entire situation a bit scary. They see Fiona, a commander with the Imperial Magic Division, and a question about her lieutenant arises. Lin tells Rio about the lieutenant, who is known as the Inferno Magician and is the pride of the Empire. The rumors say he incinerated 1,000 royal troops with a single attack, obliterated a wyvern in one blow, and annihilated a fortified rebel town in one fell swoop. Lin isn't sure if the stories are true, but they are widely believed. Rihia warns everyone to be careful before they leave. In the crowded area, the lieutenant accidentally steps on Rio's foot. The lieutenant apologizes, and Rio, smiling, leaves his group. The lieutenant meets with his informant and buys some food. Although he dislikes crowded places, he cannot use that as an excuse to the commander, who was really looking forward to the food from the stalls. The informant tries to remember what else the commander instructed them to bring. Prince Conrad, meanwhile, accidentally bumps into Abel. He immediately recognizes Abel and apologizes, saying he resembles someone he once met. Abel mentions that Princess Fiona was in the guest seats earlier and speculates that her lieutenant, the Inferno Magician Baron Oscar Luska, must also be here. Prince Conrad leaves without giving a clear answer. As soon as he is gone, Abel realizes that Conrad is a difficult person to read. Princess Fiona returns to her room and lies on her bed, exhausted from playing the role of princess while being constantly stared at. Moments later, her lieutenant arrives with the food she ordered. Fiona is very excited to see the delicious meal. Ito is practicing archery but cannot hit anything. Rio encourages Abel to try next. Although Abel has no experience, Rio has complete faith in him. On his first try, Abel makes the shot and steals the spotlight. Just then, Rhea shows up carrying a lot of bags and furious because Abel promised to go with her but didn't show up. She forcefully takes Abel with her. The scene shifts to Sarah, who visits the Adventurers Guild looking for Ryo. She wants to tell him that she has found a lead on something he was looking for in the library. Nina informs her that Ryo is out of town on an extended job and won't be back for a while. Sarah becomes worried, upset that he will be gone for another week. Meanwhile, the Adventurers race is underway. Adventurers are not allowed to use magic during the race, which makes it more challenging. Princess Fiona and others are watching the race. She's eating crepes and wishes they were available at the training ground, but her lieutenant immediately refuses the idea. The adventurers are allowed to attack each other in the second half of the race. The crowd cheers for their favorite boats. Two adventurers stop their boats to fight each other instead of crossing the finish line. The crowd watches with great interest. A special award is later given to the team that entertained the crowd the most, but they are still fighting over the prize. Later, everyone gathers to see the rain shooter, a true innovation. Rio and his friends are surprised and wonder how the ship works. Hugh notices their curiosity and explains that it uses a combination of magic stones and alchemy. Wind magic propels it above the water, and water magic pushes it from below. He adds that it had better be impressive, considering it cost 370 billion florins to build. The four of them go with Ito, who wants to buy some crossbows. The shopkeeper shows Ito a repeating crossbow, which is very convenient. Ito is confident that it can help Abel. After the purchase, they all enjoy some delicious food. Hugh leaves to return, and someone is plotting an execution. Later that night, Abel attends a garden party filling in for Hugh. Prince Conrad introduces his younger sister Fiona to Abel. After the introduction, Abel feels uneasy without carrying a sword, but he believes he doesn't need one with the protective field in place. A supervisor on duty notices that the treasure is no longer channeling mana, meaning the barrier is about to fail. As soon as the barrier comes down, Princess Fiona notices something strange at the party. A young boy is excited to witness a master blacksmith at work. The boy asks to continue working on a piece of equipment that is still in progress. After striking the metal a few times, the boy grows tired and marvels, wondering how the master works for more than half the day without looking even the slightest bit exhausted. The man simply replies that creating things of true quality demands great effort and persistence. When the boy returns home, a greeting is given by a father who is chopping. The father asks for help in preparing dinner with the mother, so the boy steps inside and uses a bit of magic to light the fireplace. Once the fire begins to grow, the mother thanks her young son Oscar for the help. The next day, when Oscar returns to the blacksmith, a renewed fascination with the quality of the weapons being produced is felt. The father arrives soon after and, showing affection, asks the blacksmith if Oscar is being of real use. The man replies that the work has actually become more efficient thanks to the child's ability to control the heat. The man then asks Oscar to keep a sword that was created. Since the 7th birthday is approaching and training has already begun, a new sword will be good. The moment Oscar holds the sword, an overwhelming feeling of happiness and gratitude is felt. Sometime later, the group is hunting boars in a forest. Oscar is also present with the parents. In fact, it is the first time prey has been struck. Oscar is happy as a desire to fight with the sword made by the master is present. The group makes its way home and a feast is planned for the night. While everyone is partying happily, word comes of bandits. A man named Bassa spotted them and believes they are scouting the village. The bandits are probably going to attack within the next few days. The problem is their numbers. The group is over 50. However, there is no time to run and nowhere to go, which means a fight is necessary. The bandits attack the group. Oscar's father, Sna, instructs everyone to go and hide at Sku's house. Sna is going to rendezvous with Rasan and head off the bandits. Oscar is instructed to look after the mother. The fight between the two groups gets intense. The bandits enter the houses. One bandit enters the house of Oscar and, right in front of Oscar's eyes, kills the mother. Oscar tries to hit the bandit bandit but fails to do anything. In the meantime, the father, Sna, enters the house and saves Oscar. An attempt is made to avenge the wife, but soon after, Sna is also killed by that same bandit. Just when the wolves begin to be drawn to the scent of the blood, everyone runs. Oscar is left standing near the bodies of the parents. The master runs to Oscar's house and takes Oscar away because a pack of wolves is coming. Oscar wants to die because the parents are gone, but the master states that a life must be lived because that is what the parents wanted. In the meantime, the house gets surrounded by the pack of wolves. The master takes Oscar and says to make for the river because wolves do not like water. Both of them run. The master fights the wolves while Oscar is running for a life. Oscar reaches the water and accidentally falls inside. The next day, Oscar opens the eyes and finds the body lying on a bed. Oscar was found by a villager at the edge of the river. A bearded man is sitting next to the bed named Luke Rothko. Oscar innocently shares the name with Luke, who has already guessed that a great ordeal has been endured. Oscar starts crying upon remembering what just happened. Later, Luke informs Oscar about the legends of red hair, that it is said those born with red hair have the fire god's blessing. Oscar informs Luke of having nowhere else to go, so Luke states that if a life in this manner is to be lived, an education will be expected. An assurance is given that studies will begin as soon as a recovery is made. Oscar asks Luke to allow learning to fight with a sword because a desire to get stronger exists. Sometime later, the castle is set on fire. Oscar runs to see Luke, finding a bandit who has already struck Luke. Oscar hits the bandit with a sword, but the bandit inserts the sword inside Oscar and states the same thing, that a lack of strength to handle a sword still exists. Oscar recognizes the bandit. It is the same one from years ago who killed the parents. The bandits, after destroying everything, leave. Oscar survives by some miracle, caught once more in the hands of a cruel destiny. Oscar wanders the land, slowly recovering. With every step taken, two names are engraved in the mind, Poche and Boscana, the ones behind the destruction. Back in the present, Abel is summoned in the middle of a party for a private meeting with a political representative and a guildmaster. The guildmaster informs of soundproofing artifacts to prevent any sound from escaping. Abel is very impressed by this technology. The guildmaster uses it in this meeting. The guildmaster informs Abel that a discussion has already occurred with Hugh regarding getting access to Loon's material as well as the matter of choosing an instructor. The guildmaster believes it would be helpful for some prospective instructors to go through Loon's course to see an example of the course as it is normally taught. The introductory course is believed to be profoundly valuable, and the guildmaster thinks that all guild locations should adopt it, not just here in Widnash. A request is made to Abel for help in expanding the program. On the other hand, the lieutenant, Oscar, is waiting for the princess to return before dining because an empty stomach will be much easier for movement in case of an emergency. The others standing with Oscar are surprised to hear this because the venue for the garden party is protected by a wind magic shield, so no danger is imagined to be present. Oscar is a little overprotective when it comes to the Princess Fiona. At the garden party, an attack occurs. Everything is burning. Princess Fiona runs to her brother Conrad and protects him by creating a shield. Conrad suggests that as much mana as possible should be conserved considering the circumstances. Princess Fiona looks around, then asks Conrad to walk slowly because a nearby gazebo should provide some cover. Conrad happily agrees and tries, along with Fiona, to go toward the gazebo for the sake of the people who are being killed. Conrad doubts that the attackers have locked down the property. A request is made for Princess Fiona to contact the knights who accompanied her to town. Although contact is possible, Fiona believes it will give their position away, but a complete loss is felt at the moment, so Conrad requests the action. Princess Fiona directs 5 red orbs into the sky as a signal for immediate help. Oscar and others see the signal and rush to help. Conrad is sure that if Oscar arrives, an escape will be easy. Conrad and Fiona are the targets of the attack. Conrad stands up to face the attackers instead of hiding. In the meantime, Oscar arrives at the location after taking care of the ones at the entrance. Oscar then runs inside to find Fiona. On the other hand, Fiona and Conrad are also busy fighting the attackers. An intense battle goes on between them. Fiona gives everything to save themselves, but one by one, incantations keep coming from an unknown place. Oscar and others are finding Princess Fiona. Conrad is too shocked to see the incantations, having no idea what kind they are. Suddenly, Fiona pushes Conrad away and is herself burned by the volcano incantation. Her body flies into the air, which reminds Oscar of a horrible, deadly past. Before falling to the ground, Fiona whispers to Oscar to look after the brother. Oscar runs toward Princess Fiona. On the other hand, Eamon, Nils, and Ito are enjoying their food while waiting for Rio, who is taking so long. They were all supposed to buy their favorite things and share, but Rio has not yet returned. Suddenly, a light explodes. After looking carefully, a person is seen about to fall down. Nils runs fast and grabs the princess, saving her from falling, although she is unconscious. The attackers come there after Princess Fiona. Amon fights the attackers and kills them. The 3 of them, after taking care of those attackers, decide to take Princess Fiona somewhere safe. In the meantime, Oscar arrives. The eyes of Oscar are bloody red, and a command is given to get away from the princess immediately. Abel arrives but possesses no information regarding the fire's eruption, observes Prince Conrad nearby, who already suffers an injury. Meanwhile, Rio holds the food and considers the sight, judges the event not fireworks but magic, as this world lacks gunpowder. Some individuals run like the wind at a rush. The scene changes to Ito and the others who protect the princess. Oscar sees them with rage. Seeking revenge, Oscar prepares to strike but Ito employs magic. Bleeding occurs as Ito receives receives a wound from the sanctuary backlash. Oscar tells him to retreat from Princess Fiona. All reach their limits, yet refuse to leave Princess Fiona alone. Oscar attacks again, but this time, Rio blocks the strike. Rio cannot believe the terrible state of friends and demands Oscar explain actions involving friends. A fight begins, but Oscar cannot believe the inability to inflict harm on Rio. Rio sees that Oscar prepares to deliver another great blow. Gathering stamina, Oscar hits Rio. Rio does not feel scared, in fact, starts fighting very bravely. Oscar again achieves nothing against Rio, and surprise grips Oscar regarding Rio's extreme powers, which burn like a furnace. In the meantime, Abel reaches the area and shouts at them to cease fighting. Abel explains the situation to Rio. Abel informs Oscar about his own presence in town, acting on behalf of Loon's guildmaster, and confirms those 4 individuals are adventurers, not attackers. Abel knows Oscar acts out of concern for Princess Fiona, so requests Oscar to listen. Rio decides to kill Oscar for the harm done to friends. Oscar enters a rage and uses ultimate power, which still is nothing compared to Rio's water jet. Abel still does not allow Rio to kill him because the matter leads to war, asks Rio to put the sword away. Rio does not listen and attacks Abel, but Abel does not dodge because he refuses to see war ignited with himself as the cause. Ready to give life to stop things going too far, Rio agrees to end the fight solely because of Abel. Rio smiles after seeing everything concludes well. The next day, in the busy city, Rihaya heals Ito and Amon. All feel happy that everything is fine. Meanwhile, Abel comes to them, seeming more tired than normal, with a face pale as parchment. Abel explains the situation to the prince and princess. When she wakes up, Oscar even offers an apology. Everything that happened last night is nothing more than a misunderstanding. Although they are fine, several casualties occurred at the garden party. Anyway, Abel informs them that the princess is very glad because they saved her and offers a monetary reward. Soon after the festival is over, they walk through the street thinking the first escort is complete. Rio clarifies that the escort is not over until they arrive safely at home. They all begin the journey back to Lune. On the other hand, Sarah waits impatiently for Rio's return in the library, misses him greatly, although possesses no idea why such feelings arise. Going all alone, she reaches the same restaurant where she once ate with Rio. As soon as she opens the door, she sees Rio already sitting there. She feels great happiness upon seeing him. They both eat the meal together. Later, both go to the library. She wishes Rio to see something and shows him the pages about alchemy. He feels truly happy seeing it. She mentions something about transcribe, which stuns Rio, asks her if she really just mentions transcribing, and she confirms talking about transcribe. He learns that transcribe allows copying anything written on paper. Sarah realizes he does not know about the spell. His face turns red like an apple. Although she knows he seems to know so much and is very strong, he is clueless on certain fundamentals. He shows surprise that transcribe is a basic spell. After completing work, he tells Sarah about a long-held thought, that Sarah spends a lot of time in the library. Sarah agrees. He asks her about the entry fee. However, since she works for the Lord, the entrance fee is waived for her. He feels jealous of her. Anyway, Sarah changes the topic to the transcriber. She really wants to take him to a transcriber so he sees what the spell looks like. Because Sarah left the forest long ago, she also does not possess much idea of human magic. Rio starts wondering about her age. Sarah senses he thinks something rude, but Rio denies it. His voice is clear as a bell. She tells him that she is 200 years old. He feels surprised to hear her age because she still is so pretty and looks so young, like a blooming flower. She feels embarrassed hearing that so directly. Later, they go to Abel. He is surprised to see both of them together and learns they are like a teacher and a student. They laugh after seeing Abel's surprised expression. Anyway, Abel takes his belongings and leaves. Before Rio enters, Sarah wants to talk with him about the way they converse, which surprises him. She explains that previously she thought that because she is B rank, he felt a little nervous around her, and that is natural. Now she sees that he is so casual with Abel too. She believes it is not fair and tells him to be friendlier with her too. She forces him to be friendly with her. Sometime later, he goes to Abel and reminds him of the promise to treat him to dinner for a week. Abel totally forgets that. Rio expects the same. Rio asks Abel to help with something to make up for that. Mentions that roommates are leaving, so he wishes to try living on his own. Plans involve doing so many experiments with magic and alchemy. Hopes to find a house with a big yard, so asks for help finding that. Abel ensures assistance. Rio sells more of the Wyvern magic stone, so they possess a sizable budget. He tells Abel about his ideas, which he thinks are pretty unlikely. The next day, they go to rent a house, but the property dealer refuses to let someone of lower status purchase a noble property. Abel tells the property dealer, Mr. Riplate, that Rio looks for a property with a large yard and is prepared to pay well. Riplate sees if a suitable property exists. After searching for a while, he comes up with a property that seems to meet requirements. The property is outside of town, quiet as a mouse. Mr. Riplate takes both of them to visit the property, which is basically a farmhouse. Rio goes inside and looks at the condition of the farmhouse, which is excellent. Mr. Riplate informs Rio that the property costs 50 million florins. Rio agrees to take it. Michael observes that Rio finally clashes with the infernal magician Oscar Luska. This amounts to little more than first contact, but the future conflict will be quite significant, a challenge heavy as lead. Other matters are also mentioned. The path of Rio seems a complicated one. Most people do not end up in such situations just because of reincarnation. The peaceful, safe life desired will be the furthest thing from what is in store. Hopes Rio survives survives the experience. On the other hand, Rio feels happy with the purchase and cannot wait to live there and do many experiments.